And the turmoil continues in Ottawa today. Not only is there a new man at the helm of the city's police service, we're also getting new insight into the Emergencies Act and how it could be used to end the relentless downtown protests. Of course, a lot of questions. With more on everything going on, Abigail Bimman joins us from Ottawa. Abigail, great to see you. So this was invoked on Monday. Follow the timeline for a moment. So here we are on Wednesday. A little more clarity. What more do we know?
Well, finally, late last night, we'd been clamoring for actual details of what was in there, and the text of the Emergencies Act was released late last night. There was also a technical briefing going over some of the details with reporters. That happened before they had even released the text, so lots of confusion over this whole thing. But a couple of standout notes after I've gone through and actually read the wording in here. One thing that had not been made clear until late yesterday or last night is that the Emergency Act regulation has a lot in there about minors, about children, about how it is now not okay to travel to what the government terms to be an illegal occupation or protest with a minor or to have a minor present. Another thing, and we did speak about this yesterday, but some more clarity around tow trucks. The government directing tow trucks to tow vehicles if they don't want to do it. Officials saying that it's a complicated situation, but suggesting that they would have the ability to take over those tow trucks and use government officials to do the towing if a company did not want to do that. And then, of course, the biggest piece of the puzzle here in terms of finances, still not so clear in terms of what banks need to do, crowdfunding platforms and cryptocurrency having to report to register with FinTrack. All of those elements are still becoming clear. We've been asking the banks all day yesterday and the Canadian Banking Association for a statement about how they're going to enforce this or the consequences, and you still don't see that yet as everybody's trying to figure this out.
But of course, we can't ignore the reaction as well. A lot of political reaction from the opposition. A number of provinces and premiers have opposed this so far. And then there are the legal questions, of course, whether this meets the threshold. But before all of this, going back to the politics, this has to be, before this is confirmed, this has to be voted on and it has to be approved. So what is the timeline? How does that work exactly? And what is the timeline?
Yeah, a lot of process questions here. So the understanding is that this has to be tabled in the House within 7 days. There's going to be time to debate it and then vote on it. But it's not that it has to be voted on within 7 days. The Emergencies Act is in place. It has been triggered, but it needs to be tabled in the House within 7 days. And my understanding is that once it's tabled, the debate needs to happen by the next day. And if at any point either the House or the Senate, which both need to vote on this, if they vote against the Emergencies Act, then it's some word around negative, if that's the word. It's no longer in force if that happens. But so within these 7 days, that needs to be tabled, and then you'll see debate on it and see what the politicians have to say.
So still a lot of questions there, obviously, but then there's the big news of the Ottawa's police chief resigning. Whether that was willingly or pushed out, nonetheless, he is going to be, well, he's gone. So Peter Slowly out of the job. They have a new interim police chief. What does that mean for the overall, really, the plan moving forward and really their goal to move the protesters out of the downtown core?
Yeah, well, that's the billion-dollar question. So yesterday afternoon, the Police Services Board met. They heard from the new interim chief. That's Steve Bell. He was deputy police chief before. Every single member is asking him, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? And the interim chief Bell says that there is a plan. He promises that Ottawa Police have a plan. They're working on it. They're working to refine it. And he'll let the Police Services Board know behind closed doors, when it's ready to activate, because he doesn't want to give information publicly about that plan. But again, this is day 20, and a lot of people frustrated that this is the point that things are at right now. And with the police chief gone, a lot of questions about how that leadership vacuum will fill in and what will happen. We heard from the public safety minister yesterday talking about the integrated command center, and he was suggesting that OPP, Ontario Provincial Police, and the RCMP, with this new structure with the integrated command center between the 3 of them, that those police forces are in a position to command and control as well. So still waiting for details in terms of how this all plays out. I will point out that there has not been a media opportunity to ask Ottawa Police any questions since Friday. We are Wednesday now. We are expecting to hear from council late this afternoon.
Okay, so you point out the leadership questions when it comes to the police service, but a lot of questions and criticism of the leadership at all levels of government. They are not immune to this, and of course, to be continued on that. But in terms of today, what more do we expect?
A few things. So you'll remember, or perhaps viewers will remember, the honking and how there was a court injunction in place that called for an end to the honking. We've seen occasional honking, but nothing like those first days where it was just nonstop and people were not sleeping for days on end. And so those lawyers are back in court today because the court granted a 10-day injunction that's set to expire. Lawyers will argue to extend that for the residents' sake here in the city. So we're watching that today. We're watching, as I mentioned, the council meeting this afternoon. We haven't heard from the mayor in a number of days either. So looking for an update there. And then, of course, watching to see if anything develops on the Hill in terms of when the Emergencies Act will be tabled and some debate to get underway.